Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all. So for today, our group will present the influence of English language proficiency on students' computer self-efficacy in remote learning. So our team consists of Saresvathy Raman, Linda Sharmilla, Muhammad Khair Naim, Faez bin Hasaban, Prof. Dr. Melo Muhammad Yunus and Dr. Harwati Hashid. We are from University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM. So this is our team. Moving on to the introduction, the aim of this research is to comprehend the influence of language proficiency on the remote learning self-efficacy of secondary school students with whom remote learning was made compulsory in conjunction with the COVID-19 outbreak. As you can see, remote learning is one of the learning techniques that have acquired footing in various Malaysian educational institutions where educators and students approach a wide assortment of learning decisions by LATIP 2020. Self-efficacy, student self-efficacy additionally possibly assumes a part in their acknowledgement of the remote learning technique. Self-efficacy is connected to a person's confidence in their capacities to plan and complete the means to accomplish an objective by Bandura 1997. And as you can see, web advancement. Innovative headway has changed the manners in which everyday techniques are performed. For the past decade, the universe of secondary instruction in secondary school has been quickly associated with the progression of web advancement and the transformation of program by Tayabinik 2012. So moving on to the next slide.
Okay, now we move on to the next part, which is research objective. As we all know, all research should have their own research objective. As for this research, the aim is to comprehend the influence of language proficiency on the remote learning self-efficacy of secondary schools students with whom remote learning was made compulsory in conjunction with the COVID-19 outbreak. As for research questions, we have two research questions here. The first one is, what is the level of students' computer self-efficacy in remote learning? And the second research question, is there any difference in students' computer self-efficacy between students of lower intermediate and higher intermediate proficiency? Now we move on to the hypothesis part. There are two kinds of hypotheses here. Based on both research questions, the following hypothesis and null hypothesis could be formed. On research questions 1, for the null hypothesis, we have students' computer self-efficacy in remote learning is high. As for the alternative hypothesis, students' computer self-efficacy in remote learning is low. As for the second hypothesis, for the null hypothesis, there is a significant difference in students' computer self-efficacy between lower intermediate and higher intermediate proficiency among ESL students. As for the alternative hypothesis, there is no significant difference in students' computer self-efficacy between students of lower intermediate and higher intermediate proficiency. Now we will be moving to the next part.
Remote learning. Remote learning is a method of learning where students can advance independently at their own pace, in contrast to the conventional learning method. It is flexible, and the content planned can be modified to suit students' requirements and inclinations. As self-efficacy is connected to individual confidence in their own capacities to arrange and execute the blueprints expected to produce the given outcomes, it assembles a scaffold of possible associations on the acceptance of remote learning. Individuals who have high self-efficacy in computer technology will have a higher insight that progressing by the computer technology is helpful to themselves. Conversely, those with low self-efficacy see progress by innovation as a weight, and this could adversely influence their acknowledgement of a remote learning. remote learning in Malaysia is currently at the outset stage, tending to the variables that impact a student's acknowledgement to it is imperative. The factors that influence the effectiveness of remote learning is principally a result of performance anxiety, self-efficacy, social factors, and language proficiency. Interest for remote learning ceaselessly increments as this method is one of the educational institutions worldwide are involved in. Self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is characterized as how much an individual is sure that the person can play out a particular task or accomplish a particular objective. Self-efficacy, likewise, alludes the convictions in one's capacities to sort out and execute the strategy expected to deliver given accomplishments. Self-efficacy corresponds with accomplishment of related ways of behaving like ability to perform, inspiration, and the selection of exercises. Earlier studies observed that a serious level of self-efficacy is probably going to bring about superior learning execution and better conduct maintenance in remote learning conditions, since students have more uplifting perspective towards the learning conditions. Computer self-efficacy. With regards to language learning through the computer or cell phones, studies show that computer self-efficacy assumes a critical part in influencing students' apparent value, convenience, and demeanor towards the internet-based resources or applications, hence impacting the student's expectation to keep utilizing the resources. Computer self-efficacy demonstrates to establish a key inborn drive in motivation. Computer self-efficacy is characterized as mirroring the client's convictions about the trust in one's capacity to play out specific learning undertakings utilizing an e-learning framework. Many investigations show that computer self-efficacy affects perceived convenience. English language proficiency and self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is characteristic of one's convictions about the abilities of what he or she can do in a particular area. Self-viability meaningfully affects a person's task decision, how much endeavors put into the assignment, and perseverance on the task. All in all, students with positive self-efficacy will put more exertion and be more persistent on the task they undertake. English self-efficacy in the current review can be characterized as a person's conviction or trust in his or her capacity to utilize the English language to speak with others, handle discussions in English, and read and write in English. Students, English self-efficacy is empathically connected with their English language capability. Past studies additionally showed that English language capability is the significant focal point of academic change and the key for students to find success both socially and academically. Methodology. Population and sample. The sample of the study was taken from a secondary school in an urban area of Petaling Slam, Malaysia. A total of 117 respondents participated in the data collection process. Upon screening the collected responses, 8 responses were excluded due to inadequate or irrelevant data. Therefore, the analyzed data were obtained from 109 respondents. The respondents were selected through purposive sampling, in which the respondents were of different proficiency levels, which is a variable needed to fulfill research question 2.
This study aims to investigate and shade on the influence of language proficiency on remote learning, self-efficacy of secondary school students, and then analyzing to see if there is any differences in line with language proficiency. The items on the questionnaire that was administered categorized into 3 distinct domains, namely basic computer skills, media-related skills, and web-based skills. Table 2 shows the distribution of mean and standard deviation per item. Table 3 reveals the overall mean score for each item, and the item that reported the highest mean is basic computer skills, question 1, with a mean score of 4.0, and the item that scored the lowest mean are media-related skills with mean score of 1.0. This shows that all the respondents strongly agree to item 1. Figure 2 and Figure 3 show the mean scores of the respondents according to basic computer skills and web-based skills, respectively. The cross-tabulation and independent sample t-test could not be contributed for media-related skills as the standard deviation is equal to 0. Meanwhile, the chart in Figure 3 shows that the mean score for both higher and lower intermediate proficiency students lies between 2.3 higher intermediate and 2.6 lower intermediate, with approximately 24 students respectively. This signifies that the lower intermediate proficiency students are more confident and have higher computer self-efficacy compared to higher intermediate proficiency students. Table 4 shows the significant difference between both groups in terms of basic computer skills and web-based skills through a t-test. The Table 5 reveals the independent sample t-test for basic computer skills and web-based skills domains, which depicts no significant difference between the lower and higher intermediate proficiency in terms of basic computer skills. Consequently, there was no significant difference between the lower and higher intermediate proficiency in terms of web-based skills. The purpose of this study is to discover the computer self-efficacy among secondary school students and to investigate if there is a significant difference between the lower and higher intermediate proficiency groups. Based on the data obtained from the analysis for research question 1, the respondents unanimously chose the strongly disagree option for the items in media-related skills domain. This evidently depicts that the students are not confident in using the computer for media-related purposes. Moreover, due to the lack of the related requirement and activities in the classroom that requires them to use the computer for the mentioned purposes. Would narrow down to investigate the influence of geographical areas, socioeconomic status, and language aptitude on computer self-efficacy. Besides that, shedding light on language self-efficacy is also crucial among Malaysian students, as the reluctancy in participation and expression could be an obstacle for an effective classroom instructions. With that, thank you.